Ever wondered how raw lab measurements turn into a clean, professional physics report? In this video, let's walk through how laboratory measurements are processed so that you can turn them into a report, in the simplest case called a lab protocol. I'll show you exactly how to process your data step by step and how to avoid the most common mistakes along the way. A lab protocol is also a basic form of an experimental physics paper. It includes the title of the measurement, the author's name, a theoretical introduction, a description of the experimental setup, a description of the measurement procedure, the measured values, the data processing, and a conclusion based on the measurements. In this video, we'll go over a brief procedure for processing measured data and share a few tips for writing the conclusion using a simple experiment shown in my previous video titled How to Measure Radius of Curvature with a Spherometer, Step-by-Step Physics Tutorial. In that experiment, we demonstrated how to measure the radius of curvature of a convex spherical surface. For this radius, r, we derived the following relationship. The radius of curvature, r, is an indirectly measured quantity. The distance a and the positions h1 and h0 are our three directly measured quantities. Let's say that using a spherometer and a caliper, I measured the following values for these three directly measured quantities, a, h1, and h0. The distance between the spherometer tips, a, was measured 9 times. The position of the central tip of the spherometer on the convex spherical surface, h1, was measured 10 times. The position of the central tip on a flat horizontal surface, h0, was also measured 10 times. 10 is the minimum recommended number of repeated measurements for directly measured quantities. If I wanted a more precise result for the radius of curvature, I could perform more than 10 measurements. For the distance a, the number of repeated measurements is exceptionally 9 because I repeatedly measured 3 distances between the 3 tips, so the total number of measurements is divisible by 3. The maximum permissible error, meaning the smallest scale division, was 0.02 millimeters when using the caliper and 0.01 millimeters when using the spherometer's micrometer scale. Based on this, I could report the measured values in the table with a precision of up to hundredths of a millimeter. These are the input data for our analysis. For data processing, we can use software such as MATLAB. The first step is to store the input data in MATLAB. In most cases, we have no choice but to manually copy them from a notebook or an Excel spreadsheet into the computer. The measured values of the directly measured quantity a are stored in the vector a, the values of h1 in the vector h1, and the values of h0 in the vector h0. Columns of values from Excel can be directly copied into the MATLAB script. The maximum permissible errors, the smallest divisions of the measuring instruments, are stored in constants labeled with the index max, a max, h1 max, and h0 max. Our goal is to determine the arithmetic mean of r and the absolute combined standard uncertainty of r, denoted UCR. From the absolute combined standard uncertainty of r and the arithmetic mean, we can then easily calculate the relative combined standard uncertainty of r, denoted URCR. Next, I calculate the arithmetic means and type B standard uncertainties for all 3 directly measured quantities. For now, I keep more decimal places in the arithmetic means than were present in the original measured values. The final rounding of the result will be done at the end of the analysis. Standard uncertainties are reported with 2 significant digits. Significant figures are counted from the first non-zero digit on the left. Intermediate numerical results in MATLAB are stored with more decimal places, but in the lab report, what matters most is the number of decimal places in the final result, not in the intermediate values. Then, I proceed with calculating the type A standard uncertainties for all 3 directly measured quantities. It is helpful to first calculate the absolute measurement errors of these quantities as intermediate results. These absolute errors provide insight into how much the repeated measurements differ from each other, and they are also used in calculating the type A standard uncertainties. Finally, I calculate the combined standard uncertainties for all three directly measured quantities and the resulting absolute combined standard uncertainty of the indirectly measured quantity, r. In this way, type A uncertainties account for random measurement errors, while type B uncertainties account for systematic instrument errors. However, systematic errors of the measurement method are not included here, so they must be described in the conclusion of the report. Examples of method-related errors include the following. When the central tip of the spherometer touched either the spherical or flat surface, the instrument sometimes lifted slightly, resulting in smaller values of h1 and h0. The spherical surface had tiny pits, so if the central tip fell into one of them, it resulted in a smaller value of h1. When measuring the distance between the tips, A, I first made imprints on paper and then measured the distance between those marks. However, the marks were more than half a millimeter wide, so I was not measuring exactly from their centers. The final measurement result is given as an interval centered at the arithmetic mean of the indirectly measured quantity, r, with a radius equal to twice its absolute combined standard uncertainty. The factor of 2 is used because we want a range of values that can reasonably be assigned to the measured quantity r with a confidence level of approximately 95%. Sometimes, less precisely, it is said that the true value lies within this interval with a probability of about 95%. The number of decimal places in the final arithmetic mean of the indirectly measured quantity should match the number of decimal places in twice its absolute combined standard uncertainty, which is conventionally rounded to two significant figures. Finally, I also report the relative combined standard uncertainty of r in percent, which indicates the measurement's quality relative to the measured value. It tells us how large the uncertainty is compared to what we measured. If it exceeds 10%, the measurement is often considered to have low precision. And that's it. You now know how to turn raw measurements into a lab protocol with meaningful results. If you found this helpful, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more step-by-step physics tutorials.